Hey buddy, Aaron here. Welcome back to Anime Talk, the show where sometimes you just gotta appreciate the roots that you came from. Now, today on Anime Talk, we're gonna do another tips and tricks video. It seems like I've been in a lot of these lately, but more so, I want to do a tips and tricks in the sense of getting people to get and appreciate the older anime. Now, one thing I noticed, and this is it's kind of something that everyone deals with. It's if they're really from this generation, like more so they're from the year 2000s or more so the later half of anime. So they started watching stuff like Sword Art Online or yeah, I want to say Gurren Lagann and stuff like that. They've watched a lot of the newer stuff. I consider that like the late 2000s anime currently. If you are one of those people that were like me, grew up on Cowboy Bebop, Outlaw Star, Trigun, the original Hellsing, stuff like that, your taste in anime is very different, I think, in many ways. You can appreciate both the classics and the newer stuff. And that's understandable to many people why, at least to me at least, it's understandable why you might not like the classics. I have my friend, the reason why I'm using Cowboy Bebop as a perfect example, he watched Cowboy Bebop recently, and, he said, oh, it's because it was episodic and all this other stuff. Honestly, I want to tell him that he just doesn't realize that there's something about it that he's not fully getting. And that's one of my first tips for you guys and girls. Understand the truth of why you do not like the original stuff. It's the art. I'll tell you that right now. Something about original art in anime really makes people kind of, I think, find other flaws, excuse me, that they can kind of latch onto rather than talk about the real reason behind what they're disliking about it. I've heard the same thing from every single person. It's always a thing of like, oh, I don't like the episodic way it is. I don't like the story concepts. But is that the case? Is that the reality behind it? 9 times out of 10, at least to me, it's actually because the art really kind of ticks people off in a certain way. They're so used to and spoiled by this kind of nice animation that we have nowadays. The 2D, the CGI effects that they can throw in 2D stuff, the 3D effects, the stuff that you see and you're like, oh man, this is beautiful. This is like some of the nicest looking anime I've ever seen. Then you see stuff like Trigun or Outlaw Star, or Cowboy Bebop, and you're like, this is not that great. And you start finding flaws rather than say just flat out it's the art style, because a lot of people don't want to admit it. I'll be honest with you guys and girls. A lot of people refuse to admit it's the art because they don't want to admit to themselves that they're spoiled by the generation of current stuff that's out nowadays. I think one thing you need to appreciate and understand is that anime is old. It's from my dad's time period, even before that technically. It's old. The thing is that I understand older stuff is hard to get into sometimes. Like I've seen the original Gigantor. The original Gigantor is very hard to get into. It's black and white. It has some terrible animations. It's really goofy. It's got the treadmill effect where people are running in place and it just seems like they're passing nothing. It's the stuff that people are so not used to nowadays, because for the most part a lot of shows don't rely on that stuff anymore. There's able to do animation where it looks like they're going through constant areas and constant movements, which back in the old days they weren't able to do. Even in the Cowboy Bebop days they weren't able to do that very fluidly. you know I think you have to appreciate that and understand that first and realize that it's not going to look that great. I hate to say it, it's not. It's always going to look kind of subpar compared to the stuff that is amazing nowadays, and I understand that fully. Trust me, guys and girls. I mean, there's some great visual amazing anime out there, like stuff like Garden of the Words. Garden of Words is, to me, like one of the best looking anime out there, and the reason I'm using it as an example is because you get kind of spoiled when you think, wow, something could be done this well, and you forget that that's not how it always was. It's we're getting involved in the world of anime and just in general with technology. That's why anime can kind of go ahead and get better and better from what it was, and it's always getting better. So understand it's most likely the art that you dislike, and just be honest about it, folks. It's not a problem to say I don't like the art for something, because it's very bad art sometimes. Like I've seen a lot of those shows and I'm like, wow, this is so ugly looking. Holy crap. But I still love it because it's just awesome. There's things about it that, first off, it's nostalgia, which I'm going to get into in 2 seconds, but nostalgia plays into it, and the kind of joy factor of watching some of your favorite stuff, which is step 2 of this. This is step 2, and this is more so to the people that hate on people for not liking the original stuff. I'll tell you this right now, folks. Nostalgia glasses. Understand what nostalgia glasses really means. Now, what do I mean by nostalgia glasses? Am I talking about something that's foreign to most people? No. What I'm talking about is the fact that sometimes older anime to us is so amazing because we grew up with it. It's our staple. It's something that we loved when we were kids and teenagers. understand that doesn't mean it's great. It's just more so that we liked it. You know, as I've gotten older, there's shows that I've gone back to. Like, for example, perfect example, Tenchi Muyo. I used to love that when I was a teenager. I thought Tenchi Muyo was awesome. I watched that when I got older, and I hate Tenchi Muyo. Like, honestly, it's something that I realized, wow, I had nostalgia for it. Like, I thought it was so much better. And then my friend lent me the Ultimate Edition, which had every single Tenchi Muyo disc ever made in every series up to like the year 2000. And honestly, it was just hard to watch. Like, I watched, I think, 5 episodes of it, and I turned it off. I'm like, oh my god, what was my old self thinking? You know, stuff like Cowboy Bebop, Rurouni Kenshin, for example. Those are, I think, tireless classics. Like, those are the ones that even nowadays are still kind of the staples of anime, and especially the classic stuff. But I understand fully that, you know, nostalgia plays a big role in for people saying that they like something from the old days, because a lot of times you like something, but is it really that great? You know, did you just kind of fool yourself to think it's that great? You know, I want to say this bottom line too with that is that nostalgia, just kind of be wary of it. It does not mean that, you know, it's something that you can now dislike when you get older, like, oh, you're gonna hate it now. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that a lot of times you have to really kind of go step back and watch it again and maybe appreciate that it's not that great anymore. But that's step two. So that's more so toward the people that defend old classics. You know, it's, I have to give this kind of a back and forth, because in many ways it is back and forth. It's going from people that do not like it and also people who truly love it. You have to find the middle ground into kind of just telling people how to get into older stuff. Now, step three in many ways is that be patient with those that you're trying to get into older stuff. Namely, this step also is more so watch older anime that is very popular. I mean, like, super popular. I'm talking about the stuff that you see on Mal being the top of the list stuff. You know, Trigun, Outlaw Star, Cowboy Bebop, Rurouni Kenshin. You know, those things I keep mentioning because it is the quintessential stuff from the past that people love. And by all definitions, those are the animes that you want to get into and stick with if you are trying to find a classic anime that you want to watch and see what the big fuss was back then. I would say, you know, what, depending on your genre taste, like if you're into sci-fi, you watch Cowboy Bebop, of course, or maybe Outlaw Star. If you are heavily into action, watch Rurouni Kenshin. But just know that you need to be really heavily invested in the genre that you're aiming for. So again, you love action, stick with Rurouni Kenshin. Stick with stuff that you know is going to have lots of action. Trigun, for example. The reason I say that is because too often people will love action and then watch something like Cowboy Bebop. And Cowboy Bebop does have some action, don't get me wrong, but there's plenty of downtime. There's more so a melodramatic tone to it, where, you know, the reason why jazz music plays so much in Cowboy Bebop is that it's trying to be mellow about a lot of things. It explains stories from characters' perspectives and kind of does a very narrative approach to things. And, you know, action and sci-fi is great and all, but the thing is that Cowboy Bebop is in itself its own genre of the mix of this two, because it does mellow things with them that aren't seen nowadays, where you see giant space battles and action sequences here and there, like Knights of Sidonia type thing. You just know that going into it. Now, step four, again, going back to the ones that are original, you know, the originals of the people that like anime, older classics and stuff like that, is that, you know, if you're recommending anime to other people, like I just said with step three, recommend the stuff that you feel really is what blew your mind away even now. Like, and I know that's weird to say, like, well, isn't that just what step three was? No, 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 no. The thing is that it has to be something that you watched recently again. So for me, for example, I watched Cowboy Bebop and Trigun recently again. I enjoyed the hell out of those shows. I love those shows. You know, these are shows that to me, even at the age of 26 versus the age of 13, 14 years old, I dig those shows still. Because I feel that even though they don't look as great as the newer stuff, they still have, besides nostalgia factors for me, they still have greatness to them. They have great narratives and great action and great, you know, just kind of animation to me. You want to make sure that it's something that you aren't just going off of based off the nostalgia factor, the nostalgia glasses factor, like in step two. You want to make sure that you really do know that material, that you just saw it recently and you went, yeah, this is really good. I saw it recently again. You'll love this. Trust me, if you love that stuff. It's a good way of getting people to like something that otherwise they might go, I'm not sure about. I don't know if I like this the way you might like it. Now, the final step, and this kind of goes towards, I want to say, both groups, is be respectful that most likely this is not going to change. And it's like, in many ways, it's like, wait, what the hell is the whole point of this anime talk if what you're really saying isn't, changeable? I mean, in many ways, like my other anime talks with the tips and tricks that I put into those, I always kind of give ways of making sure that in the end it's going to work out, at least have a decent chance of working out. Older anime is something that it's like fine art, and I know it sounds kind of ironic to say that, but it's you're not going to fully appreciate it if you're not from the generation that came from. And I hate to say that because I want to say that people have the ability to enjoy something that isn't per se, brand new. I want to say that because, hey, listen, I know a lot of my friends who are older than me that appreciate the newer stuff more than the older stuff. But it's something that it's also very hard for someone brand new to like for example. I mean, here's a good example of something that's not anime related, but VHS tapes. Most of us grew up with VHS tapes. At least most of us in the age of 1990s grew up with VHS tapes. And I know a lot of people that refuse to watch DVDs, or more so refuse to kind of forget about VHSs. I think that's more the better way of saying, because I don't think they refuse to watch DVDs, mind you, but they refuse to kind of forget VHS existed. And I look at them like, VHS is really a kind of, I want to say, gone concept. It's one of those outdated concepts that has no purpose nowadays. You have DVDs, you have Blu-rays that just surpass it in every way. I know some people love VHSs. I get that, but it's not for everyone. It's something that you might have liked back in the old days, but understand and wake up that it's like, hey, that's nostalgia talking. That's not really per se the truth behind it. VHSs are garbage compared to DVDs. I mean, they can't even do a fraction of what they do. Even Blu-rays are a fraction of DVDs are a fraction of what Blu-rays can do. It just understand that time will make it where some things become obsolete. And when that kind of happens, I know it's hard to understand. I know it's hard to kind of appreciate and even accept, but accept it. The bottom line is you will have to accept it. You will have to say, you know what, I understand you don't like the older stuff. It's okay. It might be hard and you might want to defend it all day. Like I said, defending genre, if that came out already. If not, well, that's a whole different anime talk in itself, which I talked about defending a genre. But in that way, you have to then kind of back off and go, you know what? I appreciate that you tried at least. Because I've had a lot of my friends who've had mixed results of watching older stuff. They've loved it, they've hated it. And I always tell them in both ways, I appreciate that you went back and watched something from the classics. Because at least it shows that you're willing to do that. Go into it with an open mind like anything else and enjoy what made anime great today. And when you do that, you might find yourself liking some of the old classics. You might find yourself hating them, but just at least know, hey, this was the days where anime started really ramping up to the newer stuff. We didn't have One Punch Man or Twin Star Exorcist or anything like that. We had, Rurouni Kenshin stuff. And while that's still timeless to me, and I think it's still timeless to a lot of people that love Rurouni Kenshin, because I love Rurouni Kenshin still, it's old. The bottom line, it's old, so it's understandable that you might not like it for what it is. You might want something that's new. So anyways, guys and girls, that's it for today's anime talk. I hope these tips work for you. I hope they help you kind of broaden the people's horizons in terms of watching older stuff. As always, guys and girls, have a blessed day. I will talk to you all later. Leave any topics or any suggestions for any more anime talks in the comments below. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.